Hey, today we are going to be working on lesson 1-2, which is on comparing and ordering integers on a number line. So if you have not already done your Spark, make sure you log on to Ed and do your Spark. And once you've done your Spark, come back and let's chat about your Spark and do our lesson for the day. So today we are working on ordering integers. So if you remember from our last lesson, integers are any whole numbers, and that's so any positive numbers, any negative numbers, and zero as well. And we're going to order those from least to greatest today. And then we are also going to use inequalities. And I'm sure you have heard that word before. Maybe you're not remembering what it means right now, but I think once you see what it is, you'll remember. So we're also going to use inequalities to compare those integers. So on the Spark Your Learning, it is talking about a thermometer and temperatures that are above zero and temperatures that are below zero. So we're going to find temperatures to complete each of these statements down below, and then maybe describe a thermometer to someone who has not seen one and use that as we're doing our turn and talk here. So one important thing on a thermometer to remember is that when this red goes up, so anytime we're going up, it is going to be getting warmer. And as the red goes down, it's going to be getting colder. So that's really important for this problem here. So we are trying to find a temperature out of these three choices that is colder than -8. So the first thing I want to do is locate -8 here. And I need to get colder, which means I need to go down below -8. So my choices here are -7, which is here. I have +7 all the way up here and -9 here. So the only one colder and below -8 is -9. So now I'm looking for a temperature, so same temperatures I'm using, that is warmer than 6. So warmer needs to be higher. So I'm going up, I find 6, so I need to look for a temperature that is up above 6, and that one is right there, which is +7. You really need to pay attention to those negative signs, and remember, if it does not have a sign in front of it, we assume that it's positive. So if you mean it negative, make sure you get that negative sign. So now we are looking for a temperature that is warmer than -8, but colder than 6. So somewhere in between these two. So I can see -9 is too cold, +7 is too warm. So the temperature between here that I have an option of choosing, so colder than 6, warmer than -8 is -7 here. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. You can check your work there. So now we are going to think, and again, you may not have someone to turn and talk to. You can call a friend, you can talk to a parent or a sibling, or just use your own thinking. So describe the location of a temperature warmer than 20 degrees on a thermometer. So tell me about a thermometer and explain it to somebody that's never seen one before. And how would you know where to find anything greater than 20? So if you're talking 20, 21, 22, how would you place that on a thermometer? Where would that be? So use your words and your mathematical vocabulary to do that. So go ahead and pause the video and answer that. Hey, we're going to work on task 1 here. So use your arrows and flip to task 1. So we are going to be talking about elevations. So before we do the problem, we're going to look at some additional information that might help us. So first we need to remember what negative numbers mean. So if you owe your parents $5, that means you don't have any money and you are -5. That means the amount of money you have is below 0. So negative numbers mean your value is below 0. You do not have any amount. So something else to remember is that we can use two different types of number lines. We can use horizontal number lines, sorry, bad typing there. We can use horizontal number lines. These are the number lines we see most often when we're using math, is number lines that go left to right. They go across like a horizon. And then we also have vertical number lines that are going to go up and down. So if someone is jumping, that's what they call their vertical. How high can they jump up? So one thing to notice though is when we are using our positive numbers, they're always going to go to the right to get bigger, and they're always going to go up to get bigger. These are never going to be flipped and go the opposite way. So positive always goes right or it goes up. And the other way is always going to be negative. When we go to the left, we're getting smaller. So the farther you get to the left, the smaller the number. Those are our negatives. And when we go down below 0, those are also the negatives. So it's important not to flip those as you are making your number lines. So we're going to be talking about elevations here. So elevations is comparing the location to sea level. And sea level is right at 0. And then as we go up and down, we create that sea level. So we can see that all of these are above sea level and all of these places are below sea level. Now that doesn't mean that they're under the sea. It just means if you compared it to where the sea is, that place could be under the sea. So would you use a horizontal going across or a vertical up or down to better represent this problem? If it were me, I would pick the vertical because the elevations are going up and down compared to sea level. You can use either one, but I would choose a vertical. So let's look at these and mark them on a number line. So we're going to think of these as thousands. So 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and so on. So 9,905 is almost to 10,000. So Dream Lake is almost to 10,000. Denver's 5,690. So in between 5 and 6 is Denver. We always want to label them in some way so we know what the dots are. 595, so halfway to 1,000 is Chicago. 6 feet above sea level. So that means Miami is right above sea level here, Miami. And then we have New Orleans as -3. So it is below sea level. So New Orleans here. So we can see that Dream Lake, it has the highest elevation and New Orleans has the lowest. So these are going bigger. This way gets smaller. So we could use that same information and put it on a horizontal number line as well. So I just take my information, 9,905, so almost to 10,000. So here's Dream Lake. Chicago's in between 5 and 6, Denver's in between 5 and 6,000. Chicago is halfway to 1,000. Miami is just above sea level. And New Orleans is just below sea level here. So here again, smaller on the left, bigger to the right. So we're going to use this information and what we have learned. We're going to do task 1 now. So in our ed, so this table is showing us elevations above and below sea level for several different lakes. So sea level is 0, so we can see there are several lakes above sea level. We also have Belden and Springbrook Lake that are below sea level. So how would you put these on a horizontal number line to compare their elevations? So we just did that on a practice one. So first we graph each elevation and then we compare their blank on the number line. So the distances on the number line, the greatest elevations on the number line, or their locations. When we put those on a number line, we put them on a location on the number line. So we compare locations on the number line. So what happens to the elevations as you move right on the number line? So thinking about our number line, what happens when we go to the right? Are they increasing, decreasing, or remaining the same. Increase means they're getting greater. Decrease means they're getting smaller. And remember, if at any time I'm going too fast, you can rewind and you can pause the video to get your answers in your workbook here. So C asks what happens to the elevations as you move left on the number line. So as we're moving left and this way, what's happening to the elevation? Are they decreasing, remaining the same, or increasing? Hey, which lake is at a lower elevation, Springbrook or Forest Lake? So we're going to come look here. So we've got Springbrook and Forest. So we're looking at these ones here. I can see Forest Lake is 90, Springbrook is 70, negative 75.2. So we want to know which one is lower. So think which one is going to be lower to the left or an up and down number line, which one's lower down to the bottom. Okay, then E wants us to compare Belden Lake and Springbrook Lake. So we're going to come up and look at Belden Lake is negative 18.5 and Springbrook is negative 75.2. And it wants to know which one is higher this time. So which one is farther to the right or which one would be higher up? And then F, how can I use a number line to order the elevations? So if we're going from smallest on the left all the way to biggest on the right, so you can drop down and tell me you want to start on the left, go to the right, will tell us smallest to biggest. Okay, and then tell me a situation that you could use elevations to describe location. So another example of when you might use elevations to describe a place. So go ahead and pause and do that turn and talk there and finish up task 1. Okay, for task 2, we are looking at a game here. We've got Deshawn, Chris, Tanya, and Austin that are playing this game, and they can win or lose points, and the score at the end is shown here. So we are going to graph their scores on this number line. So Deshawn has 2 points. So positive 2 is going to be on the right side, 1, 2. Now I need to make sure I've got a 2 and a negative 2. I need to make sure I'm grabbing the correct one to go there. Then Chris has negative 4, so he's going to be below 0, 3, 4. And I need to get that negative 4 to place there. So I want you to go ahead and finish doing Tanya at negative 5 and Austin at 3. So go ahead and pause and get those in the correct places there. And you can check your work to make sure you've got them correct because you'll be using this number line to answer some other questions. Okay, then B asks, is Deshawn or Tanya's score greater? So we're going to look at Deshawn has 2, Tanya has negative 5. So which person's is farther to the right will tell us who has a greater score, and choose your answer here. And then C asks, is Chris's score greater than Tanya's? So Chris has negative 4, Tanya has negative 5. So think about whose is more to the right, so whose is greater, and then answer those questions. And D says from left to right, do the values on the number line increase or decrease? So we've talked about this a lot. When we're on the left, we're smaller. As we move to the right, we get larger. Left, smaller, right, bigger. So pause and read through those and see which one matches that information. Hey, one thing you might want to do now for E is you might want to quickly draw yourself a number line and put on there 2 and 3 and negative 4 and negative 5. Or you can come back up and use this number line from up above. And we're going to place those numbers in order from smallest to greatest. So looking up here, we're going to start at our smallest one and work our way over to the right and put those in order as we come to them. And then here, we're going to tell how did you figure out those scores in order from smallest to biggest. Okay, task number 3, our last one for today, is talking about those inequalities. So inequalities are these comparing symbols. I'm sure you've seen them before, but maybe had just forgotten the word for them. So mathematical sentences like -3 is less than 5 and 2 is greater than -4 are inequalities. So we're not using equal signs. We're not saying they equal each other or they're the same. We're saying they are unequal. So they're not equal to each other. So when we read this symbol, the first part we come to as we're reading left to right is this small pointy side. When we read that, since we get to the smallest point first, that means less than. -3 is less than 5. When we read this one here, we get to the larger part first. So we say this is greater than. So the big side comes first, so it's greater than. 2 is greater than -4. So we're going to take a look at a problem here. So we're going to take those same inequalities we just read, and we're going to see if there's another way to write them. So if I'm thinking about -3 and 5 on a number line, here's 0. So I know -3 will be on the left, and I know 5 will be on the right. -3 is less than 5. So that statement right here is true. We want to make another true statement about these. So this time we're going to start with our 5. I know 5 is greater than 3, so I'm going to flip my sign the other way and compare it to -3. If I kept my sign the same way it was, that says 5 is less than -3, and that is not true. So put whatever number you're doing first, think about which way your sign should go, and finish your problem. So here we are comparing 2, and we'll put our 0 so we know where we are, to -4. So this says 2 is greater. We know that's true because it's more to the right. So if I wanted to flip that around, I'll start with -4. And since -4 is on the left side, I flip my sign to say it's less than 2. There are several ways you can write the same problem and give the same information. Just make sure your sign, when you read it, says the correct thing. Okay, so we're going to go and finish task 3 here today. So we are going to be finishing these inequalities. So it's a relationship that shows they are not equal. So in golf, scores are based on par. So if someone scores less than par, their score is recorded as a negative integer, a negative score. If someone scores more than par, their score is recorded as positive integer. So par is what they say you should be able to complete this golf hole in this many shots. So if you do more than that, you get a positive score. If you can do less, you get a negative score. After 2 holes, Jalen's score was -3, Cairo's score was 1, and Kiana's score was 3. So think about those if you need to draw yourself a number line to put their scores on. So -3 and 1 and 3. And we're going to put them in order from least on the left all the way to biggest on the right there. So we're going to complete this sentence. When the 3 numbers are plotted on a number line, -3 is farthest to the right or the left. Where is 1? And then where was the 3? So just telling me where you place those on the number line. Okay, so which 2 inequalities can be written to compare Jalen and Cairo's scores? So this is what we talked about. So how can we flip these inequalities? So thinking about Jalen and Cairo. So Jalen had -3, Cairo had 1. So I know that -3 is less than 1, and then we need to take that and flip everything about it. So see if you can do that. So thinking back to here, right? We took everything and flipped all of that. And C, your last problem for today, says two new golfers, John and Tiana, are in a competition. So Tiana gets a -3 and John scores a -1. So tell me the two inequalities that we could use to compare their scores. So think about those on a number line. You've got a number line up here. So John had -3. What was her name? Tiana, not Kiana, had -1. So think about those and write me those two inequalities and tell me which person would win there. And in golf, the lowest score actually wins. Hey, so go ahead and finish up your tasks for today and then go do your check for understanding and finish your assignments in Canvas. Great work today.